Your Father who sees in secret rewards you openly. Like I said, that's such a big deal that Jesus says it 3 times. Your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. Your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. Guys, your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. This is a big deal. The first couple of times he says it, he says, everybody, stop worrying about how spiritual people think you are. Stop worrying about how spiritual you look. Because there are people back then, and there are people now, bless their hearts, who say, you know what, it only counts if everybody knows how spiritually awesome I am. Have is the next step. It only matters if people can see me on the mountaintop praying out loud. And when I give to charity, I want people to know how big the check is. In fact, I'm only going to get those novelty giant checks that Ed McMahon used to give out. Because then people will know I am really spiritual. Jesus says, don't do that. Your Father who sees in secret. And in fact, he says, everybody who does that, they have already got their reward in full. I like that. Everybody who does that has already got their reward in full. And then he says it again, but he says it on the other end of the spectrum. He says there are some people that want everybody to know how miserable they can make themselves. And they fast and they hurt themselves and they go out of their way to just show everybody, look how miserable I am. Isn't that awesome? No. But you know people who think that spirituality and misery are the same thing. And Jesus said, don't be like them. Because, and here's the thing, they have gotten their reward in full already. In other words, if all you want is to have other people think a certain thing about you, to see something about you, you put on the outfit, you put on the Halloween costume, you've gotten your reward because you've short-circuited the process and that's all you're going to get out of it. You've gotten your reward in full. This is all a very fancy way of saying, okay, here we go. This is the thing. You ready? If God is everywhere, right, we're going to do this math. This is like 101 table stakes level stuff. If God is everywhere, if there is only right now for God, think about that with me. There's only right now for God. The concept of future and past and present, we made that up in order to try to wrap our ears around our existence. But for God, there's just right now. So that means no more waiting for God like I'm waiting for a bus. God is already now. In God, there is only now. If God is now, then it means that right now I am getting the reward for my state of consciousness, the way that I feel and the way that I think. I am already experiencing that. So no more of this, if I keep doing this thing I'm doing for long enough, God will change his mind about me or God will show up. It doesn't work that way. God already loves you. You are already loved. So no more of this. If I keep behaving this way, then something will click. You are right now getting the reward in the outer for your inner state. So if you want a different experience, right now, change your state. Change the way you think about things. Change the way you feel about things. The Bible says, be transformed by a renewing of your mind. Be transformed by a renewing of your mind. Find a way to change your mind in some little way about something that's going on. Because if you're celebrating the big misery or the big awesome advertising pitch for how great you are, that's the only reward you're ever going to get. And this is a big deal because Thanksgiving is coming. And it may well be that you will share a table with someone I call a Thanksgiving martyr. It's a very religious and spiritual role, the Thanksgiving martyr. You may well have somebody. If you don't, bless your heart. But a lot of people do have that person in their family, and their affirmation is this. This is the thanks that I get. Okay, well, the piano happens right then. That's perfect. That was actually quite good. This is the thanks that I get, and the music swells and everyone cries. This is the thanks I get for the suffering and how I have labored, and this is the thanks I get for this bad thing. This is the thanks that I get, and you know what the answer is? I guess so. We're good. You did the thing, and this is how I act. Because here's the thing. If you've got to guilt me into acting a different way, do you want that? Or is that weird? If you've got to pressure me into a different level of thanksgiving, then is it genuine? Or is that weird? Life doesn't work that way. I'm not a Black Friday guy. It's not really my thing, but I have no judgment about it. Some people like doing the Black Friday shopping because for them it's fun. It's like a sporting event. It's like rabbit season, I guess. I don't know how they do that. For some people, that's the thing. They put on their Elmer Fudd hat and they go to the mall, whatever. I'm not judging that. If that's fun for you, great. And for some people, it's an economic thing. They're trying to stretch their dollar and all that. I'm not judging that. Do Black Friday if you want to do Black Friday. Not my thing, but if you want to do it, that's fine. But please watch how you do it. Just like everything. It's not what you do as much as how you do the thing. It's the consciousness that you have. Because there are some people who do it because it's fun or because they're trying to be economical and all that. That's great. But there are other people who do it because they think that suffering proves love. I must really love you because I lost a thumb buying you a bike. No more hitchhiking for me. Or whatever it is. Somehow, there are those people, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, who think that that's the transaction. If I trade suffering, I get love back. Suffering equals love. Suffering equals love. And if I can suffer really big, then the love must be really big. I want you to know that you only get out what you put in. If you put in suffering, you are only ever going to get more suffering. And let's break that down. If I teach you that my relationship with you is I suffer and that's how I love, you are subconsciously going to create more situations for me to suffer because that's the only way I know how to love you. And that is the beginning of counseling. It's true. Bless your heart. You only get what you put in. If you put in suffering, no matter how noble you think it makes you look, you can Sir Galahad your way right into a really miserable situation if you want to. The only thing that begets love is love. So do the Black Friday thing if you want, but do it because it's fun. Do it because you love it. Do it because you love the person, not because you really want to show some battle scars, because that proves something. It doesn't prove anything other than you like to take a beating, and no one needs that proof. Do the thing because you love. And let's get to the place where that's the basis of a different relationship with other people, and let's do a thing because that's the basis of a different relationship with God. There are so many people that think, you know what, if I can just prove to God that I have clobbered myself sufficiently, God will start loving me. You've heard that before. Think about that with me. The Bible says, it is your Father's pleasure to give you the kingdom. Jesus compares God with a loving parent over and over again. Your Father knows what you ask before you ask it. Over and over again. What part of that, I came that you might have joy and have it more abundantly, what part of that makes us think that we need to beat ourselves up in order to be happy? What part of that? I can imagine Jesus showing up and going, guys, what are you doing? What with the guilt? This is the thanks that I get. I mean, really. Let us stop trying to earn our relationship with God through the power of misery, because it only begets more misery. What if we just love? What if it's simpler than that? What if we just love? It's easy to have a spiritual hero. For me, it's Jesus, but I'm not going to be picky about that. For different people, it's different heroes. You have a spiritual hero, somebody that means something to you. It's easy to go, in order to emulate them, to have the what would Jesus do moment, I should get the outfit. Usually we don't see a lot of people dressed like Jesus. It doesn't happen much because they tend to take them away. But that's because Jesus is pretty commonly accepted. It's sort of westernized kind of a thing. But you do see people who go, in order to be spiritual, I need to put on my shaman action playset. Or my Buddha action playset, where it's the outfit, and I got the special beads, so I must be cool. Now, there's nothing wrong with the beads, but they can't make you be something you're not. What if spirituality isn't something we put on? The thing is, if I were to say to Jesus, what would Jesus do? Jesus would probably say, you know what, that's very nice, but you're not me. The question is, what would the illumined version of you do? Not what would Jesus do as much as what would you do if you knew you were a child of God? What would you do if you really were in touch with the love in your heart? What would you do? You don't happen to live in the Holy Land in year 1. What would you do in 21st century Pinellas County? What would you do if you knew who you were? If you want to emulate your spiritual heroes, it's not about the outer things. You don't need to speak Aramaic. They spoke it then because that's what they spoke then. What do you speak? Let your language be love. If you want to emulate something, emulate sincerity, emulate devotion, but carry it into the place where you live.